So, yes, Gene did make a really good video on showing how to use that. John, we're going to talk about that just a little bit today, okay? And I think we can help you with some of that question today. So let's take a look at the webinar basics just so that we'll be clear. And I'm probably going to add Adpow to this list. We'll cover both Youzign, GIFsign, LogoZign, MockZign, not always all in the same day. And we'll add Adpow to that in the weeks to come, okay? The support questions have to go to support, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit in a minute. And then also, your questions are very important, but they have to relate to today's topic. We have a lot of things to cover in this 1 hour on Friday, and I want to make sure that we maximize everyone's time and that we utilize your time in the best manner possible. So keep that in mind when you ask questions. I was on a webinar yesterday, and I saw somebody ask the same question like 7 times in a row, and it was the equivalent of, is there a replay? And I just, sometimes you just have to recognize that may not have been related to today's topic, okay? And just keep that in mind, okay? So the next thing is, let's just keep this a really, really good experience for everybody by not doing anything that may be deemed to be rude. And I want everybody to have a great experience, so we're going to do that. I can't answer questions about partners offers if there's a partners offer on the table, and sometimes if we do that, you may get an email about a partners offer. We probably won't have the answer to that here unless the webinar is specifically designed for that, okay? And then please refer to the link that Rose has provided. I think that will help you greatly. The next thing is, and I really like this quote, creativity is a habit, and the best creativity is a result of good work habits. We'll talk a little bit about work habits today and how that can benefit you as we go forward, particularly in developing and mastering the skills necessary for you to be incredibly creative with the Z suite of products that we have designed, okay? Here's a really good example of an Adpow product that has been posted in the group. And so I really like that, okay? Sandra, that's a question that we can probably answer that when we get to that part of the canvas, okay? Because that's a really, really simple question. This is a really good example of the use of Adpow, okay? I'm gonna answer some questions about that. I'm gonna walk you through I'm gonna take about 7 minutes and walk through the Adpow platform. I'm gonna give you a little bit of, just a little bit of direction as to what you should do that can be helpful to you, okay? And I think I think people miss things because they get in a hurry and they skip past stuff, okay? The next thing is, and this is an example of that. I used Andreas's comment here, not to pick on Andreas because he's a friend and I would never do that to him, but to demonstrate that sometimes we just miss the obvious, and somehow Andreas had missed the fact that we could download a graphic as a PDF, and you know we've been able to do that for almost a year, and sometimes you just miss stuff. And you just miss it, and that's not Andreas's fault. It's just what happens. You get busy and you forget. And that's the reason why we do these webinars, is to help you to walk you through some of those things that are so obvious, and you go, "Why didn't I get that?" And then you realize that the reason why you didn't get it is because you just were overlooking it. And all of us have been guilty of overlooking the blatantly obvious things, and so part of the purpose that we do in these Friday webinars is to remind you of those things. And here's one of those things I want to point out. And this was a post by Rose, but I underlined this, I highlighted it so that you could see it. Notice a change that's taking place in this particular post. In this particular post, it says help.zsuite.io. help.zsuite.io. We are in the process of moving to a new help platform. That platform is going to be amazing. I'll show you some of the things that we'll do with that in just a little bit. It is not fully functional at this point in time. So part of John's question can be answered here, and we'll address that as we go through this part of this whole Z Suite. I'm going to talk a little bit about the new upgrade to the design, or let me say this all. Let me start all over again. The desktop version of Youzign. That's all. I had all exactly the right words. They just got jumbled in all the wrong way. So we'll talk about and I put a video in showing just there's some changes to that platform. And I want you to be aware of what they are, and I want you to understand why they're there. So we'll talk about that a little bit today as well, okay? I think we'll help answer some of those questions, Olga. No, it's not mandatory to do that. You don't have to have the desktop version. And some people can't do that for whatever reason. They may not have a product that will allow them to do that, okay? Big Head Bob, that's a great name. The answer to that question is no. Not at this point. What we do is we send emails, we make announcements in the group, we do it on the webinars. So that's where we're handling that right now. Okay. All right. Here's Eric. Eric did this, and I saw this not long after the webinar. I think this was Saturday morning that he posted that. And John, you've made your point, okay? And I'm gonna try to help, okay? So Eric did this. This is really amazing how Eric took it. What he did was he took the things that we did. He took the things that we did in the last webinar, and he immediately did them himself. Easiest way, best way to get better at what you do. The best way to get better at what you do is to practice. And so he just simply took what we had done in the webinar, which was, here's the thing, you don't have to reproduce it exactly. It doesn't have to be exact reproduction, but it was a great recreation. And that's a great recreation of what we did. And so if you will get in the habit of, once we get finished with the webinar, don't wait for the webinar replay to get posted. Take something that you saw in that webinar, and let me figure out a great way to say it. Just hack your way through it and figure out how to get it done. Just go through the process and go, how did he do that? Or where was that going? Or what let me see if I can do that. If you'll start doing that, it's amazing what you'll have. And Pete, yes, it's possible to have both of those, okay? Yes, exactly. The whole point that I'm trying to get you to understand the benefit of mastery isn't I've done that exact thing before, but I've mastered the skills that enable me to do anything. And there's a big difference between the two, okay? And the whole purpose of this, and Eric did an amazing job of this. He really did an amazing job of this, because he gave it a totally different look than I did. Took basically the same thing, but did a totally different look than I did. But he did it using the same skills. And I think it looks amazing. Just a really, really good job of taking what was done in the webinar, which was incredibly limited, but hopefully a bit inspiring. And that's what Eric just said. He felt inspired to do that. And I think that's the point that we want to make, is that you develop mastery when you go, oh, I think that's something that I can practice and I can achieve that. Not to do it exactly the same way, not to reproduce it, but to recreate it. When I was a kid, my dad was an incredible cook. My dad would take me into a restaurant. He'd say, "What's in that?" We'd order something off the menu, say, "What's in that?" And what he was trying to do wasn't to teach me a recipe. He was trying to teach me a skill. And there's a difference between the two. Okay. And Eric went into the webinar last Friday and said, "What's in that?" And he turned around and took it to this place right here. Okay. So that's just really, really cool. I appreciate that. And that was a great job. Great job, Eric. Thank you. All right, we'll talk about Adpow just a little bit here, and I don't want anybody. I think I had this. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Adpow in just a little bit. I'm going to jump another screen in here for a moment, and do a couple of things in the middle of this. And I apologize. I probably should have been moved down just a little bit. We'll talk about the new version of Youzign desktop, and I want to show you. This is actually a graphic that I had created for an Adpow. Okay, and I want to show you how that graphic comes to play, because again, this is a whole suite of products, and that suite of products has to use different tools. Okay. Yeah, I don't want you to be confused, Leah, although it does function differently, and we'll talk about those differences a little bit, okay? But we'll get to that when we get to the canvas, and the canvas today won't be the Youzign canvas, it'll be the desktop Youzign canvas, okay? I want to ask you to do something. Ask yourself this question before you make a post. What have I done to get myself to this point, okay? And you have three options. You have three options. You can ask a question in the group, and if you ask a question in the group, it should probably fall in some of these categories here, okay? How do I, whatever the how do is, a little bit like Eric took a how do right here and did it, okay? And so you have the how do I do something, and Gene made a video showing everybody how he uses Youzign to create an overlay for a video, and so there's a lot of how do I stuff that's asked, that's posted in the group, and that's asked in the group. Where do I find? This is a most common question that gets asked, is where do I find? Where do I find? Where's that? The question got asked to me last week. Where did you find that gradient background button? And because they had seen that on the webinar, or they'd seen something that I had posted as a result of the webinar. Where did you get that gradient background button? Well, and so where do I find that? Where did that come from? And so you can ask those kinds of questions in the group, where to find this, or how does this look, or how about this, or where does this happen? If you have questions about support, if you have questions that you're going to send to support, ask them in support. And those are billing questions, account questions. How do I get my account set up? How do I get this added to my account? What about refund? Those questions go to support. Then you have the ability to do a couple of things that I think are really, really cool. And make sure that you do these first, and that is search in the group. I bet we've answered the question about why am I getting a black background when the message comes up that your flash needs to be updated. And I think we've answered that question probably, I counted one day, I think we'd answered it 26 times in the group. So search in the group, use the search feature in the group, and ask and put in anything that might be connected to that, and you may find the answer that you're looking for right there. Okay. The other thing is, with the new help site, and here's where I was going to go with the Adpow a while ago. We have this Adpow button right here, all right, that says I need help. This is where we're going with the help platform, okay? And so you might be surprised what you find when you click on that button, okay? And it's going to filter you through these different products and different opportunities, having to do with billing, having to do with the team clerk, having to do with Youzign, GIFsign, any of those things. You're going to find some help for you in here, okay? And this will help filter that out, take you to the right places in the library and those kinds of things. So make sure when you're over here to use the search and search the help site. Click on this help button. I don't know how people miss those, but they do. And again, it's kind of like the earlier conversation. Sometimes we just get so used to seeing something that we forget that it's there. And so make sure that you do that. And I think you're going to enjoy this new help service a lot as we move in that direction and we get this library built out here for all of the things that are there. And here, I have answered this question at least twice that I know of. Well, the only three products that are mentioned there are Youzign, GIFsign, and Mocksign. Can you scroll down? Just scroll down, you'll find more. There's more stuff there. So this is the help.suite.io, zsuite.io that I mentioned earlier that Rose had posted. Pay attention to those things. You might be surprised what you find. And this is a growing help center. The team is working really, really hard to get a bunch of stuff in here so that people's questions get answered, okay? And I think you'll find that helpful. I agree, Olga, this is a more streamlined and a little bit more organized method here to have all of this available so that you get pointed in the right direction, and you may find the very thing that you're looking for when you do that, okay? The next thing, having to do with Adpow. There's a lot of stuff here with Adpow. I just went through it this morning and checked to see what kind of things were there. Found that a couple of things that had been mentioned have already been addressed. And so make sure that you have exhausted the resources that are available to you before you start to ask. Take a little responsibility for your development. And as somebody said earlier, not the tricks, but the trade. And take a little responsibility for that. Find the places where you can go, and you may be surprised how many answers that you can actually find, okay? We'll get to the Youzign desktop in just a moment. Remember, we've got a variety of things to make it possible for you to give all kinds of presentations. Okay, so having said all of that, are you ready for me to move on? And we'll start with the Adpow. Are you ready to do that? We'll spend about 7 minutes on Adpow. Okay, give me just a second here to switch my screens, and I will be right back with you. Okay, can you all see my screen now? I need to be able to see your chat. All right. Okay, some of you may not have this platform, and that's fine. Like I said when we started, we're going to cover some things that may not apply to you, but if it doesn't, just ride along with us, and we will get back to things that do apply to you. So stay with us, and we'll do that. What I want to show you is a very high level overview. I've been trying to figure out how to do a webinar that would make sense. Because there is such a variety of things that are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a tiny fraction of that and show and just walk through the steps, because I missed a step the first time I set a campaign up in Adpow. And so I'm going to show you where those steps are at to make sure that we don't miss a step. And then I'll show you how that applies to other things. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a vote campaign. You have a variety of campaigns. You've got a content locker, which will actually unlock certain content. If you want people to see a video, but not until after they've given you their email address, then you can use the content locker. If you want people to get a coupon for participating and helping you to share this, then here's where you create a coupon. And these templates are already designed to do that. This is a place where you can do a giveaway. This is a place where you can do a download. All of those things it basically becomes this. And if you're not familiar with this term, I'll explain to you what it is. It basically becomes a mail gate. Somebody has to give you something in order for you to give them something back. And they're going to give you, they're going to log in using Facebook, or they're going to log in using their email address or Twitter. And that unlocks the next step. And you're going to give them something. You're going to let them participate in the contest in return. So that's the premise behind Adpow. And it does this differently than some other platforms do something similar, okay? So I'm gonna take the vote template, I'm gonna load that vote template, and we're gonna use it, okay? And I'm just gonna put in here, so you can see where these things are at. I'm gonna put in here new headline, okay? And that gives you a chance to see where that headline goes. I'm gonna give you, as we go, I want you to understand something that if you will get in the habit of not taking the most challenging thing that you have and throwing it at some brand new piece of software, but just get in the habit of running something that you've not done before, and do the simple basics and that kind of a thing, it will help you a lot. Okay. I'm just going to take a, and do you see where these things are showing up over here? All right. The next thing is I can put an image in here, and I can change this image. All right. And this is going to be my image for today, because you won't get lost if you use that image. And I'll delete the existing image. That makes that happen there. Okay. The next thing, and if you'll notice these two spots at the top of the headline up here, I can put in here a duration. It starts and it ends. It starts and it ends. Okay. And that's right here. It tells me how much time is left for that contest. What I might want to do in this particular case, until I get a number of entries, is I might want to turn that entries on or off. Okay, if I have 750 people who've entered, I might want to turn that on to tell people, hey, you're missing out if you're not paying attention here. Okay, so that's the next button down, and I'm just going to follow this from top to bottom, which is what everybody should do anyhow, is to follow that from top to bottom. And so I've got my duration, which appears over here. I've got the number of entries, which appears over here. And if I turn that off, I can hold that until a later date. I can turn it back on and do it at a later date, okay? The same thing I can do with the time left, because if it is an evergreen contest, then I don't want to turn the time off. But that's what you're doing right there, and that's where these things appears at the top of this, okay? The next thing is custom CSS. Let's just ignore that, because you're not going to put custom CSS in there unless you absolutely know what you're doing. So let's talk about the login. I've got login options, and I can put a login option here, and I can add to the login options Twitch and Google. And I don't have any idea what Twitch is, so I'm just going to ignore that one. But when you click on the email, they're going to have to give you an email address to enter into the contest and do any of these things down here, okay? So I'm going to eliminate Twitter, and I'm going to eliminate email, and I'm just going to make this a Facebook contest, and I'm going to show you the reason why in just a second, okay? So we've got this down that they can log in using Facebook. Now we'll take a look at the actions, all right? Do you see the actions right here? These are the actions. And the actions, I determine what those actions are. And if I want them to vote, I can give them something to vote on. And in this case, I'm going to have them vote on this little image I did right here. Okay. And I'm going to have them pick A, B, or C from here. And I'm going to make that a mandatory action, and I'm going to save it. Okay. And it's asking me for two options because I can't vote on one. Now, if that happens to you, then there's a possibility that what you've done is you have a slightly different kind of a contest. I could do this for a coupon and make a vote to do that. You can, that is an option, Eric. I'm trying to answer some questions here. That is an option. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put another image in here, and we'll let people vote between We'll let people vote between popsicles and M&Ms, okay? All right, I'll make that a mandatory action. And if I wanted to put in here all of this poll as to which one was the most popular, I could use a SMS voting system to do that with. And if I want to eliminate that, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to leave this just vote on those two options, and I'm going to put the viral share. All right. This gives me the details here. You can vote and then share that vote with your friends, and I'll show you where that's at in just a moment. Sponsored actions, just ignore that. Rewards and winners. Now, you can pick what the winner's going to get. You can provide them with a coupon. If you provide them with a coupon, this is going to be the coupon code. That's for a 50% discount. And I would put in here 50% discount. And then if I want to make that everybody wins, I could do that. Or if I'm only going to have 6 winners, I can do that. Okay. So I'm going to save that. This is where I set up my account, and I have my business profile in here. If you're on a business plan, you have options. If you're not on a business plan, you don't have those options. Okay. The post entry message, this is where you would actually send a message to people after they have voted. This goes to the email. That way, you know you have a good email address, and so you can do that. What you have the thanking them for participating in the contest. You also have a congratulations to the winner of the contest, and then you have a thank you for participating. So you have 3 ways of touching that person. You touch everybody because they participated. You touch the winners because they won, and then you touch the people who did not win, but letting them know how much you love them. Okay. And then terms and conditions. If you do not have a terms and conditions, then you might want to use the one that's provided for you. If you have your own terms and conditions, then you could. The problem with let me park right there before Pete's question goes away. The problem with using emojis, Pete, is that the emojis are not an option. I can't put an emoji in as the answer, and you'll see that in just a minute. Okay. I'll show that to you in just a minute. But if you don't have a terms and conditions, then use this one. We've provided that for you in a URL right here. If you have your own terms and conditions, and I highly recommend that you do this. Check the rules in the country where you live so that you make sure that you're not violating any rule and that you're playing properly. There are some things, like there's some states in the United States where you can't give a coupon code that expires. There's some states, not all of them, but some states that do that. So that doesn't mean that you can honor it if you're out of business, but you can't give that to them that expires in 27 minutes. And so you want to make sure that you're participating by the terms and conditions that are available in the place where you are domained. Okay. You can do whatever you want to do, Eric. You can send them a coupon if you want to do that. You would put it in the email, would be where you would put it. You would not put it in the coupon code that was above, but you could put it in the email and send the non-winners. But since you didn't win, here's a compensation for you just participating with us. So you could do that, absolutely. Okay. And then finally, and the last thing is, you can put a minimum age on it. There's some countries where you have to be a certain age in order to participate in a contest, and that's cool. Facebook requires you to be a certain age to participate in a contest. And then you have authorized countries as well if you have that plan. So I could limit that to just the United States. If I wanted to do that, I could limit it to New Zealand. And I just simply select the country where I want that to participate, where I want the participants to be. Okay. So I'm going to turn that off because I don't want to do that. And then I'm going to show you what happens when you save the campaign. All right. And you can send an email to the people that tried to participate in countries where they're not allowed. So now I'm going to create the campaign. And I have the campaign available right here. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. I'm going to open this up. And I didn't do anything with this background here. I didn't make this look sexier than it was, just straight out of the box, okay? When you take a look at the one that I shared in the on the agenda, and the one that the gentleman shared in the group, then he's made this background look really cool and has made it look nice. That for this purpose, I'm just going to do this, okay? Now, I am required to log in. I can see this, but I cannot vote because I haven't logged in yet. So I'm going to log in. This takes me to, now I've logged in using my Facebook, and now I can vote, okay? And I'm going to pick that one. And that was the only vote that I was required to do. And so now it registers that as an entry, and I have entered one time, and we're good to go. Does that make sense? That's the skinny on Adpow. That's how the product works. We're going to go back and take a look at the dashboard, and you'll see that there was one click, one user. I can look at the analytics and go down here, and I see that that click came from the United States. That's the cat that did it, and I can download it as a CVS right there. I can download it right here, but then I have the details of that. Okay, so that's the short version of using Adpow. Okay, and that's the that's the skinny on using Adpow. Let me change screens again. We'll jump out of the Adpow conversation. We'll go to Youzign desktop. Give me just a moment to get this ready. All right, can you see my screen okay? All right, good. Okay, I covered this in a kind of a brief video that I posted in the group on Friday or Saturday. I don't remember which day it was, explaining the fact that there's something missing over here. All right, there's something missing from this bar over here. In the past, we've been able to upload. I'm gonna let me before I get started on the Youzign desktop. I would agree with that. Hashim, I would definitely agree with that. And yes, I will do that. I'll go through this occasionally as things, and there's things that are being processed. Twitter is a fussy platform. Facebook's a fussy platform. I have several platforms right now that all the Twitter APIs were bonked out, and so and we're in the process of getting them all back in. And so as those things happen and change and develop, we'll let you know. Okay. So now here we are on the Youzign desktop. There's a couple of things that are different here. Okay. If I want to, and the question was asked earlier, if I want to change the color of this, I can come up here. This is how I change the color of an icon. All right. This is how I change the color of my text. So the instructions always in exactly the same place. It's right here. It's the color. So I can make this color different if I want to do that. All right. So that's the first thing. And each one of these icons are single solid colors. So that's all I can do with that is just change that color one time. But if I wanted to make them stand out, I could easily change them and put them like this. Okay. This is actually an image that I used to get people to vote on what their most frequent use was. Okay. Yes, this is the desktop version that I'm working on, Olga. And I want people to understand how to use that and just how lightning fast it is, but how many limitations there are with it right now. So, that's where I changed. Somebody asked the question earlier where you change the color, and that's it right there. One of the things that you will notice, and one of the things that I absolutely love about Youzign is that there's a color picker. And this is the color picker right here. The problem is the color picker doesn't work properly with it in the desktop yet. We'll fix that. It'll get addressed. It'll get taken care of. But the one thing that I absolutely love is that color picker, because it saves me a lot of time, and I don't have the ability to use that color picker right now. So that's one of the limitations. I want you to understand what they are, and I want you to understand that we're aware of that, and we're working to get something done about it. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, and most of you ask this question all the time, man, you have all of those really, really cool fonts that are saved in your you have the really cool fonts saved over in your Youzign platform that we use every week on the webinars, and I do, but they're not carried over to this platform. Okay. The answer to that question, and I thought that's where you were going with that, Sandra, is we can't change the color of a picture. There are some things we can do, and people on this webinar will tell you we do that from time to time. But I can't take a rose-colored rose petal and turn it purple. I can't do that. We don't have the ability to do that. No, we're talking about the difference between the SaaS platform, which is the online version, and the desktop version, okay? Sandra, we'll do that in another webinar, because I think that's a really good question. It's one of my favorite things to do, and show you what the capabilities are. That's the question I'm getting ready to answer, Carol, is that the upload feature is not available here. And the reason is because it's not necessary. All right, it's just really not necessary. Let me do this, and I'll show you how to do the question that Ray's asking right now, because I'm going to have to rebuild my library of favorite fonts. And so what I do is I simply go here and I click on this. All right, that should save that font right there for me. Okay, so I can always get that font back, and that's how you do that. There's a one-way cross, Eric. There's a one-way cross. The way I do that is, let's take this one. I'm going to change this one this time so it'll make sense. I'm going to change that font to a different font, and this is actually what I do when I'm setting up my site. So I've changed that to an Arvo font. Now I can, no, we're not phasing anything out, okay? Just so everybody will understand, we're adding, we're not phasing. And then I hit this little save button right here. This is the universal, everywhere you ever find it, this button is to save. So I can save this right here. And I can scroll down here, and there, I've saved that font. Okay. Now, what I can do, and I really like to do this, I can actually rotate that. I can change the color of this. All right, let me change the color of that, change that to that deep red, and I can put a shadow on it. I can put a border around it, put a skinny border around it, and I can put a shadow on it. And I can make that shadow opacity very light, and I can make it that color right there. Don't know why I would, but I can. Okay. Now, just eliminate that. I'm clicked on this, and I'm going to save that. All right. I come down here, it appears just like that, but when I click on it, it's saved in the angle that I had saved it at before. All right. I wondered exactly the same thing, Gene. What's a floppy disk? Unfortunately, I can remember when I used to have a floppy disk to start my computer. Okay, so that's here. Now let's talk about the thing that's missing up here, which Carol had asked a while back. All right, What's missing up here is I don't have the option to upload. And the reason is really simple. And it's because you're going to upload it to where? I'm going to take it from my computer and upload it to here. Watch what I can do. I'm going to take an image, and you probably will not be able to see what's on my screen, but this is the image that I downloaded just a minute ago to use on the webinar. And if I can grab this and I can just drop it there, I don't have to upload anything. So I've eliminated the uploading process. Does that make sense to you? If I don't have to upload it and save it, I can just drop it someplace. And so being able to just drop it where it goes is a lot better than trying to have a whole bunch of stuff stored up here and go back and get it. What you want to do instead is just have a folder like I did, and you didn't get a chance to see that, a folder of things I'm going to demo in the webinars. So that gives you the ability to just be able to drop that in place. All right. You can't do that on the SaaS platform. You can't do that on the cloud version of Youzign. The one that you're using right now, Youzign.com. You can't do that. So this ability to be able to grab that image and just simply drop it someplace is huge. That eliminates the need for all the other stuff. Okay, I can take that, click on it now, make it the background, and there you go. So we've eliminated the need to have an upload. I had several people who fussed something horrible about that. It's like, why do you need it? This is a lot easier to do, okay? And that's the reason why it's not here, is because we've eliminated the need to have it there. And it also keeps from having a whole bunch of stuff that you have to sort through over here. Most of us have fussed because we've had too many things to sort through in my uploads over here to try to find the thing I was looking for. Find it keep it on your desktop and use it from there. Okay. Now we can still use. Good question about SVG files. So let me find one. Give me just a second, and I'll find an SVG file. And you can't see what I'm doing, so it's not that I'm trying to do something. But this is an SVG file right here. I can just bring that over and drop it on my canvas. All right. And I have some limitations with it. That happened to be the one I found. That's a terrible example. But you see my point. You can drop SVG files in there. No, we're just dragging and dropping. I'm dragging and dropping that from my folder onto the canvas. That's all I'm doing. As I'm just simply grabbing that image and bringing it over and dropping it on the canvas. So I've eliminated the steps of having to go through the uploading process, then go find the upload and bring it back. I've eliminated that. Now, somebody asked a question a while ago about being able to work back and forth between the two platforms. Let me find something here. I'm actually going to get rid of everything on this on here, and we're going to start all over again. Okay, I don't go back out to my desktop because there's no, back out to my dashboard because there's not a dashboard that I need to deal with. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight all of this and I'm going to eliminate it. Okay. And this, I still have the background, is a gradient background that I put on here to start out with, because most of you found that last week. I don't like to work off of a white canvas, so I always change the background to something. But anyhow, here we are. So what I'm going to do is, if I can remember what it was I was going to do. I want to, while somebody's making the comment here about scheduling posts to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, understand this, and I want to insert this here so that everybody will be clear about this before I get back to what I was doing here, because I interrupted my train of thought and I forgot. Facebook is now blocking auto posting to your personal profile. And that started last week, and it's effective across the board now. It's affected every single piece of software that posts directly to Facebook, your Facebook personal profile. So be aware of that. That's affected everybody. It's affected IFTT, it's affected Hootsuite and Buffer and Banner, and everybody's been affected by that. Okay, they really do. They change the rules frequently, and we have to be aware of the fact that that's what's going to happen, and that may be what's going on with you as well. So the questions being asked here, I can't connect to Instagram and Twitter. Just be aware of the fact that some of those things, and I mentioned Twitter earlier, that Twitter's just going through a little fuss right now too. So. Okay. All right. I was hoping that I would remember what it was I was going to do when I cleared my canvas here, and now I can't. So somebody asked a question so I can sound like I know what I'm doing. And then he gets dead silent. Nobody's going to ask anything. I cleared my canvas so I could do something for you. Somebody remind me what I'm going to do. Yeah, I like I like working from a gradient background here because I think it's really good. There we go. It was both versions. I couldn't remember for the life of me what that was. So let me go out here and grab this, and I will do that. So I'm looking for a file with a Youzign on it. Okay, and so this is the file. I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to try to drop it, and it won't drop. So what I have to do is. That was the reason. That's why I was a little bit concerned that it does not affect the Facebook business pages. That is correct. It only affects your personal profile. All right. So thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. Now, what I'm going to do, and you're all going to have to ride this train with me for just a moment, okay? I'm going to have to shut my screen off and change the way that I'm sharing so that you can see this, because that's what stumped me a while ago. Is I remembered I was going to have to do something different. So I'm going to have to share the entire screen, which I never do because it's very confusing, but I'm going to do it anyhow. All right, let me put that away. Now, tell me, can you all see my entire screen now? Okay, good. All right, let me make this a little bit bigger. I'm still trying to keep you all in the chat so I don't lose you. And you'll see the chat over here. So thank you for the comments. I appreciate that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this file. I'm going to log out of this, and I'm going to start again with the image that I had saved earlier. Okay, so I'm going to quit Youzign, and this time I'm going to find this file. Do y'all see my webinar 1 Youzign file right there? Yeah, I told you, you're going to see the chat. That's the reason why I don't usually share my whole screen. So do you see this right here, searching Mac? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the webinar Youzign. And boom, there it is. So I don't need a dashboard anymore because now I have the one thing that you want to do, though, and make sure that you do this, is you'll notice I changed the name here. It will save under youzign.yz. So make sure you change the name so that you can find it, because you won't be able to find it by thumbnail visual like we had been able to do before. Okay. So instead of a dashboard, I now have a place to save my files, and I can come back and get them. All right. Now that's the save as YZ is an option on the canvas. Save as YZ is an option on the canvas. And so when I save it, it's going to save it on my desktop, and it's going to save it in a folder that I designate or whatever. but I want to make sure that I give it a name that I can find. And then I just double click on that file and it will open up Youzign Desktop with that file that I had been working on in the SaaS platform. Okay, is that clear to everybody? That's when I talked about there's a one-way direction to do that, Eric, that's what I was talking about. No, that's why I say it's one way. You can do it one direction, you can't do it the other. That's what you do on Windows 10. Is that what you're saying, Stephen? Okay, good. Because I don't know what a Windows 10 is. Yeah, what you want to do is you want to log out like I did here. Okay, you want to log out of Youzign and you want to bring that file up and then just simply double click on the file and it will open it up. Okay. Now, the great thing about, and this is the great thing about the desktop, is I can open and close this as many times as I want to. All right. So I have a couple of really, really cool options with the Youzign desktop, and here they are. I can, give me just a second so I can make sure I'm not missing questions as they go flying by here. If I want to start with a different Youzign file, then I have to log out and log back in. All right. I can log out and log back in. Log in. You're not doing anything other than stopping the program and starting it over again. Now that may get better. We may eliminate that step from it in the future, but for right now, the easiest way to do that is just log out, double click on your file, and it'll come back in. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I see some people giving some direction about Windows. I don't know anything about Windows. So I appreciate y'all making comments about what to do in Windows because I really don't know. So I have a Mac, Eric. I was a little frantic when I didn't have it too. So yes. All right. Any other questions about how the desktop version works? I wanted to make sure that you understood that there's a few limitations, but the limitations themselves, the first one, everybody thought we had eliminated something. We didn't eliminate anything. We eliminated the need for something. If you can eliminate the need for something, then you have done something huge. Okay. Carl Rose can post she can post the link for where to get that. It's pinned in the group. It's pinned at the very top of the group. It's that image that I showed you all earlier that I had highlighted and underlined in red. But it's there. It's available in lots of places. But understand there are a few limitations. This color picker is not available. There's a few things that you may find a little bit hinky as you do this, and that's okay. We're going to get those bugs worked out. I shouldn't even call them bugs, but we're going to get those limitations worked out. And there's no dashboard. And the reason why there's no dashboard is because there's no dashboard. You're using your computer, your file, whatever it is, to put all your stuff. Where before we had to store everything in the dashboard. All right. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate you doing that. Any other questions? I want to make sure that everybody understood all of those pieces. I wanted to give you some version of what's going on with Adpow so that you could at least see, don't miss any of these steps. And if you have questions about that, I'd be glad to answer those for you. I can even answer those for you privately. I'd be glad to do that. But there's a lot of stuff that's available right now. And Rose posted a link earlier to something as well. I saw the link go flying by. I don't know what that was, but I did see that go by. Okay. All right. If nothing else, I really appreciate you all spending your Friday with me. I want to make, I know that's a big deal for you, and it's a big deal for me for you to spend your time with me. So I will be back here next week, same time, same place, just an hour earlier than it is right now. And we will start then. All right. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time and your attention today.